It was the evening of July 3rd, 1984, when the owner, Bert, of Unita Medical Supply Warehouse has had quite the predicament on his hands. Bert was accompanied by his two employees, Frank, a foreman, and Freddie, a young gun trying to make a quick buck in the bustling town of Louisville. See, this predicament was quite unusual. They were dealing with things that none of us have ever seen in our lives. Bert called the only man that he deemed fit. That man's name was Ernie, no relation. You see, Ernie is an embalmer and works at the crematorium across the street. Bert tells Ernie that he has a bunch of rabid weasels.
Shut your fucking mouth!
In various bags, and he needs them to be cremated. Ernie is hesitant in his reply, saying, "Why do you have a bunch of rabid weasels? That's a little weird. And I can't burn live rabid weasels. That's messed up." Well, as Bert and Ernie are conversing with each other, Frank and Freddie are having quite the tough time. There's been some sort of virus outbreak. After Bert reveals the unholy hell that is actually in those bags, Ernie agrees to cremate them. But he had no clue the hell he was about to unleash. What's up, guys? Now you might be asking yourself, why do you have that totally badass leather jacket on right now? Well, first off, thank you. It is pretty badass, isn't it? And second off, I would say that, well, this kind of attire is needed when you watch a film like The Return of the Living Dead. This thing is totally punk, it's totally badass, and I fucking love it.
I fucking love it!
But before we can talk about The Return of the Living Dead, we need to go back to the 60s and talk about Night of the Living Dead. In 1968, George A. Romero released a film that would change horror forever.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
It would spawn subgenres, make thousands of other movies that deal with its contents, and that's zombies. There's not even much to say about this film. It's amazing. It's perfect. It's spectacular. It is the zombie movie. With a budget of $114,000, Night of the Living Dead would go on to make $30 million, making it a box office success. Naturally, they wanted to make more of these things. That's where the problems came in. You see, George A. Romero made Night of the Living Dead, but he wrote it with another man. That man's name is John Russo. John and George, they were disagreeing about where they wanted to take the following films. So George A. Romero said, hey, I'll do my own thing with the Living Dead series, and you can go on and do your own thing with the zombies as well. But they won't be connected, and they're going to be different. John says, all right, I'm not going to make another movie. I'm going to write a book called Return of the Living Dead. I've never read the book, but apparently the movie's plot and the book's plot are completely different. Then we get to the 1980s. John Russo meets up with a producer named Tom Fox, and they want to make Russo's book into a film. That film, as we know it, is The Return of the Living Dead. But Tom Fox is kind of like, that plot of yours,
Fuck that shit.
we are going to do a totally other thing and make this thing punk rock as fuck. They bring on Dan O'Brien to write this thing and direct it, and the rest is history. The Return of the Living Dead is totally badass, just like this fucking leather jacket, and I love it. So let's get into the basic plot. All right, fuck these glasses. They're annoying me. The film kicks off by telling us that the events in this film are all true, the names are all of real people, and the places are all real places. Bullshit.
But I love bullshit.
We learn that Freddie has just gotten a job at the Unita Medical Supply Warehouse, and he is being onboarded by the foreman, Frank. I kind of went over all of that already. We see in the beginning here that the two of them are working together. Frank is showing them all of the supplies that they have. They have skeletons, half dogs, and of course a Tarman zombie in the basement. As Frank is showing Freddie around and showing him the ropes, he begins to tell him about the things that they have in the basement. This is where we get that portion where Frank tells us the events of Night of the Living Dead, but what actually happened afterwards.
What really happened was, back in 1969 in Pittsburgh at the VA hospital,
That was a chemical spill.
Frank takes Freddy into the basement and says there has these barrels that the US Army accidentally had shipped to their warehouse. They go down there and look at it, and when they're tapping on the thing, boom!
Leak? Hell no, these things were made by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers.
Yeah, that's good shit.
That is kind of where the movie starts. We then meet Freddy's friends, a gang of punks, the only way to describe them. And there's some interesting characters. First off, we got Suicide. Suicide is a badass motherfucker. He is cool as shit. He just loves to party, loves to rage, hangs out in the cemetery, and you know, nobody really understands him.
I mean, I got something to say, you know? What do you think this is all about? You think this is a fucking costume? This is a way of life.
Next up, we got Trash. Trash is scary.
We could go fool around in there for a while.
You mean that cemetery? Oh.
Let's do that.
I'm good. Thank you.
She and Suicide are more the same. They're different, but they're more the same. We also have Casey and Chuck. Chuck is going to be trying to get into Casey's pants throughout the whole entire film, and he's not going to succeed.
Go choke a chicken.
And then there's Tina. Tina is the most innocent. She seems like she really just wants to be with her boyfriend Freddy. She's trying to help him throughout the whole film. Tina's pretty cool. Then we have my favorite member of the friend group, Spider. Spider's the most badass. He thinks the most throughout the whole entire film. He just gives himself the best chance to survive.
How do we kill those things?
You don't.
The fuck you mean you don't?
And I would say Spider is my favorite out of this group of punks because the last guy here, Scoos, I didn't know this before making this video, but the actor that played Scoos is actually a piece of shit. So, fuck that guy. As our boys are taking their gas nap, we meet Colonel Glover out in California. It seems like Colonel Glover is on the brink of divorce with his wife because he's a workaholic.
What's for dinner?
Your favorite, lamb chops.
I had them for lunch.
Say that you're fine when you're not really fine.
He's been trying to locate these barrels because he works for the military. They have not been able to figure out where they are at, and it's a royal fuck up. But Colonel Glover's story isn't going to be important till later. After the boys wake up from their nap, they know that they fucked up royally too. Well, there's a zombie in the upstairs room trying to get out. And they are freaked.
Are you a freak? Are you a freak? What are you?
And everything in the warehouse is starting to come back to life. So Frank does what he needs to do, and he calls the big guns. Bert. Bert shows up. He's the owner, the proprietor, the manager, whatever you would like, of this warehouse. And when he comes, he's freaked.
What are you?
He definitely is, but he handles it a lot better than the other men have. While all of this is going on, our gang of punk rockers are just having a party in the cemetery across the street. I mean, and it's a party. They got music, Trash is naked, they're just dancing around on gravestones. They don't give a fuck. When Bert shows up, he's like, all right, we need to get that guy out of the room because he is loud. So they devise a plan where they're going to open up the door, have this yellow undead zombie run out and tackle him to the ground. And I love this scene. It is hilarious. I think it depicts kind of what might actually happen if this really was a real thing. Everyone's kind of freaking out. Everyone's paranoid. They don't really know what to do. They don't know how to handle the situation entirely, and they fuck up the store a little bit. So Bert looks out the window, sees that Ernie's light is still on, and says, all right, we're gonna need to take this to Ernie's place because he's an undertaker. He's an embalmer. He can take care of this for us. Bert comes over with the boys, says he has rabid weasels that need to be cremated. Ernie's like, what the fuck? I can't cremate rabid weasels. That's messed up. It's immoral, whatever. And eventually he learns that they're not weasels, they're body parts, and he does the job. But this single action from Ernie fucks everything up. Now, Ernie is my favorite character in the movie. He's played by Don Calfa. You know, he's such a unique character because he's this mortician, he's an embalmer. You might think he's boring or, you know, just from hearing his job or like what he does, you might think he's a complete weirdo, but he's kind of badass. I mean, he holds a gun on him at all times. He's listening to cool music while he's working. He's got a nice crib. Ernie's just kind of the best, but he fucks up because he cremates these body parts. And when he does that, the smoke goes into the air and it starts raining. And with these zombies, they are able to reanimate, come back from the dead, if just the littlest amount of this smoke called trioxin gets into the ground, and it does. And the zombies start coming back to life. And the thing is, the rain is not normal rain, it's like acid rain. So this pisses our punk rockers up, and they're kind of like, what the fuck is going on? They gotta go back in the car. They get in the car, it's leaking through the car. They're like, holy shit, this sucks. So what do? They're like, oh, let's go to the warehouse. It might be safe there. That's where Tina was going. Meanwhile, Frank and Freddy are under the weather. They are looking quite grim. We can assume at this point, even though it's not outright telling us, that they are infected. As Tina is at the warehouse by herself before the others have showed up, she goes downstairs and has a nice face-to-face with the Tarman zombie.
Who's there?
And he just wants to eat her brains. Well, she doesn't allow him to do that, but when the gang shows up, Chuck comes down, unveils that curtain, and gets his head a nice little chomp from the Tarman. And yeah, he dies painfully. Everybody freaks out, they start running. We then cut back to Ernie, Bert, Frank, and Freddy. Frank and Freddy on the couch. They're looking like complete shit. I mean, complete shit. They're gonna be dying here. They literally don't have a pulse when the paramedics show up. The paramedics are confused, so they go back outside, you know, to try to figure out what's going on. Well, they just royally fucked up because they're gonna be meeting a horde of zombies when they get out. As the gang of punks is running back to the cemetery, I guess don't realize what the fuck is going on still, and a bunch of zombies come out, and, well, Trash gets it pretty bad. She said the worst way to die would be from a bunch of old men eating her alive. And she gets exactly what she wanted. This is where our parties are gonna start getting connected. So Spiders, Goose, and Tina all meet up with Ernie, Frank, Freddy, and Bert while they're in Ernie's home. Casey and Chuck have decided to go back to the warehouse where they think it'll be safe. Anyways, Ernie's house is now being surrounded by the Walking Dead. And these zombies in this movie are some of the strongest, smartest, just most durable zombies I've ever seen in a movie. I mean, these things literally just don't die. You have to destroy every little part of them to kill it. You can't just shoot him in the head. It's fucked. And like, they can set traps, they can devise plans.
I'm in distress. Send more paramedics.
Ernie sees the little creature that's gnawing on his face and decides to do a little experiment. This is where we learn what's going on with these zombies. They are eternally suffering because they're dead and they're brought back to life. And the only thing to suffice that hunger is brains, baby. Let's fucking go.
Eating brains. How does that make you feel?
It makes the pain go away.
Anyways, I love the design of the little creature that we get. It's only its torso, and it's so skinny. The hair on it is just a really cool practical effect. And this movie does so good on their practical effects. The blood is awesome, the zombies' makeup is great, all the monsters are cool. Trash now is a zombie. She's come back to life, and she's even more badass than before. We head back to Ernie's place where they are now putting Freddy and Frank in the little chapel because they are just so far gone at this point. But the thing is, Tina doesn't want to give her man up. Yeah, I know, it's sad. Your boyfriend's gonna become the Walking Dead. You gotta fucking kill him. You gotta cremate him. But she won't. So Spider, Ernie, and Bert are kind of like, yeah, we're getting the fuck out of here because these guys are gonna be turning like any minute now.
We gotta lock the door, you know that.
I'm staying.
Are you sure about that?
Exactly what they thought would happen, happens.
What, Freddy? What?
Live.
The boys come back just in time to save Tina's life. Ernie does a really cool attack with some acid right to the face. Freddy gets hurt, gets some HP taken off, but he's still churning. He still wants to take some damage, and he's not stopping. They're able to trap him in the chapel just long enough to get away and get back to safety, to Ernie's dissecting room? I don't know what to call that. They're all like, holy shit, are more cops coming? Because some cops have already shown up. They died. Some are, but then they just die again because these zombies are nuts. And Spider and Bert are kind of like, all right, we need to try to get that car and get out of here because Ernie, you can't run, you hurt your ankle. They go out there, they try to get the car, but there's just too many zombies and they get the hell out.
We gotta get closer, man, or we'll never make it like this. We gotta split. We gotta split. No, we can't split. They had to.
Freddy's still trying to come and get them. Frank had walked off. He's turning, but he's walked off. He's not really trying to do any damage. And they can't go outside. There's too many zombies, so they're stuck in this room. It's secure, but it could get broken into still. So in this final leg of the movie, we have Tina and Ernie sitting in like the little loft attic area as Freddy's trying to gnaw off their faces. Then we go back to the warehouse where we have Casey, Chuck, Bert, and Spider. They are all in this room now. They go back to the basement and find the number that was on the barrel. And Bert is kind of like, all right, fuck, I gotta call this number. Even though I never really wanted to, I have to do it now. It's way out of control. So he does. And that's where we get Colonel Glover again. Colonel Glover gets the call. He's like, okay. It's like the middle of the night from over there. His wife's probably pissed. She's like, shit, I gotta leave this man. But then he makes a call himself to a man sitting in Colorado, I believe. This is where the movie's nuts. The first time I saw this movie, and I've only seen this movie now twice, I want to say. It was on Halloween last year. And yeah, they just send missiles all over Louisville, or the little pocket that they're in at least, and kill everyone in the vicinity. I mean, it is fucking nuts. Everything blows up, and that's the end of the movie. Holy shit. Everyone just dies?
It's so badass.
I love this movie. Return of the Living Dead is a great zombie movie. It is different than a lot of the zombie movies that I have seen, and I'd give it an 8 out of 10. But the question I want to ask now, since this movie kind of retcons everything that George A. Romero was working on, I want to see if Return of the Living Dead is better than George A. Romero's second film, Dawn of the Dead. If you look at Night of the Living Dead, that's his first film. That's the film that started even technically Return of the Living Dead, so you can't compare it with that, but let's do the second film. Now, Dawn of the Dead is a lot of people's favorite zombie movie of all time, and I completely understand that. It is one of my favorite zombie movies of all time. Dawn of the Dead is fucking awesome. It's revolutionary. It's the practical effects in that alone. Tom Savini again. Just the mall setting and the way it begins as we're looking at the news reporters and as the city of Pittsburgh is really starting to fall. I really love when a zombie movie opens up with like the end of the world or when things are really starting to get bad. It's just an interesting way to take the film. I think it's enjoyable to see the paranoia, the just total pandemonium that is going on during that time.
Just stay cool, okay? When we go in there, don't pop off, all right?
Let's go!
Fatality.
And Dawn of the Dead does that so well. I'm not going to talk about the whole entire plot of Dawn of the Dead because I'll save that for another video, but Dawn of the Dead is great. And it has Ken Foree in it.
I'm Joe Grizzly, bitch.
And I would say this. I think that Dawn of the Dead is probably a better movie overall. I think the acting in Dawn of the Dead's better. I think the story is more tight. The characters seem more grounded and real. I think it has a slight edge over the Return of the Living Dead. But the thing is, if I'm gonna watch one of these movies, I'm picking the Return of the Living Dead because it's just a better time. It's more fun. The kills are better in my opinion. The blood's better in my opinion. I like the zombies better in the Return of the Living Dead, even though I do really enjoy Dawn of the Dead zombies. They're the standard zombie in my opinion. I used to be a huge Walking Dead fan. The zombies that George A. Romero made remind me of the Walking Dead zombies, which is no surprise because Greg Nicotero worked on all of those movies with Tom Savini and George A. Romero, and he literally did the makeup and practical effects for The Walking Dead.
I'm making spaghetti.
It's hard not to get inspiration from George A. Romero if you're doing a zombie thing. He didn't start it, but he made it what it is today. But throw all that to the side. I think I'm picking Return of the Living Dead every single time. It is just a really fun time for me. I can turn it on whenever, wherever, and enjoy it. If you guys like this video, consider subscribing to the channel so that you can see more content. I'm gonna be posting a lot more as I keep going. I'm just having a fun time. Thanks guys. I'll see you next time.